Hello, everybody, and welcome back to more Higurashi When They Cry. Yesterday, stream-wise yesterday for YouTube, I don't know, like 2 days ago, I guess? Yeah. Regardless, last time I streamed, we confessed all of our sins to the adorable and helpful Rika-chan, and she assured us that everything would be okay. But people are disappearing left and right, and we learned that the reason we were able to break into the shed in the first place was because Rika-chan and the mayor both decided to change the locks on the shed to a simple padlock, which allowed us to obviously pick the padlock and break inside. And so Rika-chan is probably going to die. The mayor is almost assuredly already dead. And our cast of Shion and Keiichi are going to blame themselves for confiding in these two people when really they were going to die the entire time. I think that's about all that happened. So, enough with the intro. I didn't save after chapter 8. I am a failure. Anywho, I'm bad at intros, but I do them anyway because they feel right. But let's end this one and start the game. After hanging up on Shion, I searched for Rika-chan's phone number on my school's contact list. There it is. My fingers trembled with urgency, and I failed multiple times to put in the simple 5-digit number. Keiichi, are you calling someone at this hour? It's late, and it's being rude to the other person. That doesn't matter right now, I shouted angrily at my mother, listening to the dial tone. Pick up. Come on, pick up. The time was 11 p.m. It certainly wasn't early. It was essentially the middle of the night. Had Rika-chan already gone to bed? Her phone would be ringing constantly, though, so would she get back up for me? Rika-chan didn't pick up. She didn't pick up. She didn't pick up. Maybe she just happened to miss it. Maybe her bed was just too far away from the phone. The sound of a phone ringing gets clearer and clearer the longer you go on sleeping. Then, the bathroom? Yeah, she must be taking a bath. If that was the case, then even if she heard the phone, she wouldn't be able to pick up. It was a little late to be taking a bath, but it was possible she normally took baths right before going to bed. I'll wait 30 minutes, then try calling again. Even as I was thinking that, I called her house over and over again. I kept calling. Over and over, again and again, I kept on calling her, but she didn't pick up even once. I think I kept trying for about 30 minutes, yet she wasn't picking up. Were my phone calls so persistent that she had gotten scared of picking up the receiver? No, that couldn't possibly be it. There was no point in doing this any longer. The best thing to do would be to go there in person. Where was Rika-chan's house, though? Shit! I've never even asked her where she lived. Her residence was written there in the contact list, but it was an address with mostly numbers, so I couldn't tell where it was just by reading it. Isn't there a map or something in here? Rika Furude. Her last name was Furude. It was a bit of an odd last name, so it might be easy to find. Thinking that, I rummaged around the drawer with the phone book, but could only find things like takeout menus and phone numbers for public establishments. Shit! 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 I tore one thing after another out of the drawer, but I didn't come up with any clues as to where Rika-chan's house was. Calm down, Keiichi Maebara. If you don't know, then just ask. Ask someone who does know. Ah, that's it. Rina's gotta know. I looked up Rina's phone number on the contact list. Rina Ryugu. There she was. Hello? This is Ryugu. It was the voice of a grumpy-sounding man. It must have been Rina's father. I am calling in the middle of the night. I need to be polite. I'm sorry for calling so late at night. This is Maibara. Is there any chance Rina-san is around? Reina is taking a bath. Oh, she's done? Reina, there's a friend of yours on the phone. Oh, right. Reina Ryugu was her real name, wasn't it? I'd gotten so used to calling her Reina that hearing her real name caught me a little off guard. Hello? This is Rina. Ah, it's me, Keiichi. Sorry for calling so late. Huh? Keiichi-kun? What do you need at the time like this? Like this? Well, actually, I wanted to know where Rika-chan's house is. Rina seemed a little appalled that I'd call her for something like this at this hour. However, she spoke her next words seriously, as if she'd caught on to how urgent my need was. Okay, sure. You know the assembly hall on the grounds of the Furude Shrine? There's a 2-story shack used for storage behind it. That's where she lives. I couldn't immediately visualize the place, but as long as I knew she lived on the shrine grounds, I'd just have to take a look around. Got it! Thanks! Sorry again for calling so late. Apologize to your dad for me too, would you? Okay, but Keiichi-kun, why do you want to know where Rika-chan lives? Rina asked in an unusually sharp way, halting me before I could hang up the phone. I hesitated for a moment about whether to tell her. He was killed because I told him. Keiichi-kun? If you're still listening, could you answer me? Why are you asking where Rika-chan lives at a time like this? Rina affected her usual tone, but beneath her words lay a certain tension, like she'd intuitively sensed something was going on. What will you do, Keiichi? If it's Rina, can't I tell her? He was killed because he found out. I revealed everything, so he was killed. Keiichi-kun? Rina is being serious. Please answer me. Rina asked me once again in a tone so forceful I couldn't imagine her ever using it normally. I was taken aback by her vigor. Rina was Rika-chan's friend too. She had the right to be concerned about Rika-chan disappearing. If I told Rina, then, even if only for a moment, I could drive away my horrifying fears. Rina, well, I can't exactly tell you why, but... Yes? Rina's tone was seriousness itself. Just from that tone, I could feel her saying, no matter what you say, Keiichi-kun, I'll believe you. That subtle sense of security gave me the courage to reveal the truth. I have a feeling that Rika-chan is in danger. You mean like a premonition? Or do you have some reason to believe she's in danger? I really didn't have time to go back and forth with Rina about this. Still, I think listening to her calm voice soothed my pointless impatience. I don't have much reason, but yet I still hesitated. I had told Rika-chan that we had snuck into the ritual storehouse. The mayor, to whom Shion had confessed before that, had already disappeared. So, it was possible that Rika-chan also... I didn't know how to explain it to Rina. While I was tongue-tied, Rina spoke up. Sorry for asking something so weird. I thought about it, and it isn't like you. And it isn't like you need to be sure. Rina laughed a little, seeming a bit absent-minded. I wasn't exactly in the mood to laugh, so this time I was dumbfounded. Rina continued in a cheerful, yet purposeful voice. You're worried about a friend. I don't think you need a reason to go and check on them. Even if Rika-chan was asleep and you ended up waking her up, if that was why you did it, then none of us would get mad. Rina, thank you. Okay then, Keiichi-kun, just one thing. You called Rika-chan's house, right? Then you just couldn't get through, so that's why you asked me where her house is? Yeah, that's right. I'm Must have called her for over 10 minutes. She could just be sleeping and not have noticed.
Rika-chan's house is really small. She would definitely hear the phone ringing even if she was asleep. Satoko-chan is there too, so there's no way neither of them would notice.
Huh? Satoko? You mean she's living with Rika-chan?
Yeah, you didn't know? Well, we can talk about that later. Anyway, if you called that much and no one answered, then something's definitely wrong.
Rina understood that the situation wasn't normal far faster than I could have ever imagined her to. It made her seem dependable. However, the fact that Rina had acknowledged this also meant that the best case possibility of it all just being the result of my own needless fears went out the window.
I'll go to Rika-chan's house right now. Will you come with me? I can show you the way.
Sounds good. Let's meet up at the same place as usual. I'll be waiting for you.
No, wait! I'll come get you at your house. You just wait there. And tell your family you're coming with me to Rika-chan's house, okay?
Will that be okay? We might lose time if you come here.
Did you call me Chan too? She's really dependable at times like these. If you haven't, then I'll give her a call.
My thoughts froze for a moment. Shion had just told me to be careful around Mion during our phone conversation a little while ago. If the Sonozaki main house was somehow lurking behind the surface of the annual freak deaths, then the current heir to the family, Mion, wouldn't be uninvolved. So, wouldn't that mean she wasn't uninvolved in what happened this year to Takano-san and Tomitake-san, and also the mayor's disappearance?
Okay, bye. I'll be right over. Wait for me.
That's all Rina said before hurriedly hanging up. Now wasn't the time to be doubting Mion. I needed to make sure Rika-chan was safe. I got changed and grabbed the key to my bike. I figured things would go more smoothly if we met up in the place we usually do before school. Rina wouldn't need to come all the way to my house. My parents would probably have objected if I told them I was leaving, so I creeped out without a word. You fucking dumb piece of shit! Fucking children, man. The night was unusually warm and disagreeably humid. She said that Rika-chan and Satoko lived together, right? Then it wasn't only Rika-chan. Satoko wasn't there either? Realizing what them living together really meant caused my thoughts to immediately take a turn for the worse. That can't be. Satoko is... she's got nothing to do with any of this. Even if there were a reason for Rika-chan to disappear, there shouldn't be one for Satoko.
Keiichi-kun!
Reina was really fast. She approached me on her bike at an amazing speed. Her breath was ragged, painting a clear picture of just how hurriedly she'd been going. Hey, Rina, let's get going.
Keiichi-kun, I thought I told you to wait at your house.
Rina's expression was all business. Was she mad? It came out of the blue, and I faltered for a moment. Well, I just figured it would be faster to meet up here.
Keiichi-kun, don't you get it?
Rina shouted, clearly angry. I'd never seen Rina like this before. Do I get it? What's the problem? Rina seemed to notice she was scaring me, took a couple of deep breaths, then continued as if admonishing me, but her expression didn't soften at all.
Keiichi-kun, the whole village is in an uproar now that the elder disappeared, right?
Yeah.
Now you're telling me that Rika-chan and Satoko-chan aren't where they're supposed to be, right?
Yeah, that about sums it up.
Then you need to be more careful. Do you have any idea how dangerous it is to be standing out here alone in the middle of the night?
I began to understand where Rina's anger was coming from.
You told your family you'd be going to Rika-chan's with me, didn't you? So that in the worst case scenario, if you and I were to disappear, people would know when and where we did.
Rina was perfectly level-headed in this emergency situation. Ever since the night of the Watanagashi, every night someone had died or disappeared. On the night itself, Takano-san and Tomitake-san met strange ends. On the next night, the elder vanished. Now, on the next night after that, Rika-chan and Satoko were nowhere to be found. I hadn't been thinking of anyone but myself, but it wasn't enough to say that Hinamizawa was a little weird at the moment. It was, in fact, extremely strange. Rina had even anticipated our own disappearances and had told me to tell my family where I was going. I was embarrassed at my own carelessness, and the need to be embarrassed made me afraid of the night. Sorry, I didn't tell them yet. Okay, then let's go tell them together. With Rina beside me, I wheeled back towards my house. That's a nice moon. That's a really nice moon. I just want this picture. Can I save background somehow? No, there's no changing the background. Okay. The moon seemed strangely high in the sky. A sky that was uselessly vast and cold, so that no matter what, it would never seem to me like a dream. This cruel fact had already confronted me. On such a crazy night, Rina had been unimaginably dependable. Hinamizawa's metamorphosis, enough to make Rina caution me against carelessness, was, to me, the most fearsome thing of all. The moon seemed strangely high in the sky. We met up with Mion on the way, and she, of course, was unsure whether to believe me about Rika-chan and Satoko's disappearance. Ki-chan, are you serious? I'm going to get really mad if this is a joke. Mion was clearly displeased. If this were a joke, it wasn't very funny. I understood how indiscreet my words were. Ever since the day before yesterday, someone had either died or vanished every night. Rika-chan and Satoko disappearing after all that was something you just couldn't say, even in jest. Mi-chan, if it really is a joke, don't get mad, smile. It would be a joke after all. We need to go make sure whether it's a joke or not. You're right. Sorry for getting upset. However indiscreet a joke it may have been, if we learned that our friends were safe, it would end up as nothing more than a funny story. Having been warned about that by Rina, Mion gave a dry smile, the tension she felt loosening a bit. She mounted her bicycle as well. Our 3 bicycle lights flashed down the pitch-black roads. They were some of the only illumination outside. Ki-chan, why did you suddenly decide to call and ask about Rika-chan's house at a time like this? Mion asked me the same thing that I had trouble explaining to Rina. Would it be weird to call it a premonition? I couldn't quite tell because it was dark, but I thought I could see Mion smiling, very ambiguously. I definitely understood that she wasn't convinced, though, despite the darkness. Well, I had this bad dream while I was snoozing, and I couldn't get it out of my head. So, did Rika-chan get kidnapped in the dream? Well, it was more of a vague feeling sort of thing. If Rika-chan had answered the phone, I would have called you and Rina after that. Lies smoothly babbled out of my mouth, makeshift though they were. I was lying because I thought telling them I was connected to Shion would be like silently admitting we'd stolen into the ritual storehouse together that night. Mion didn't press me any further. I don't know whether that convinced her. Or maybe she figured that making sure Rika-chan and Satoko were safe would be faster than making an issue out of it. I felt relieved and immediately a little guilty. Mion hadn't really been acting any differently these last few days, but I'm still trying to distance myself from her for some reason. It was only because of what I heard from Shion and Oishi-san that she was the successor to some kind of super extravagant gang family. No. Was I just trying to force myself to forget? Don't do that, Keiichi Maebara. Wasn't it Wasn't it Mion who was the first to ask about the night of Watanagashi? In such a harsh tone at that. Have I already forgotten the terror I felt? At the time, Mion looked like someone different from the Mion I knew. When I think about that Mion, then Shion and Oishi-san's descriptions of Mion made a tiny bit more sense. That's it, isn't it? If it wasn't for how she acted that day, then I wouldn't be feeling this way towards her now. What on earth was going on with her back then? I was conveniently thinking only of everything she had done after that, while disregarding the very first thing, the thing I should have been looking at most, wasn't I? Mion was pedaling her bicycle in front of me, her long hair fluttering in the wind. No matter how long I looked at her back, it never gave me answers to any of my questions. We went all the way to the stone steps leading up to the shrine grounds. Of course, we weren't going to want to haul our bikes up there, so we parked them beside the staircase instead. So, this is the Furude Shrine. Everybody comes and goes as they please, as if it were a park, but this place is actually a grand estate owned by the Furude family. So the entire shrine is private property. It really makes you feel the passage of time. 10 or 20 years ago, it would have looked the exact same. Then, wouldn't that mean that the Furude family is really old? With a history going back for generations? Yeah, they're gone. That's odd. Rina said something clearly disquieting, so I ran over to her. What's wrong, Rina? Rika-chan and Satoko-chan always leave their bicycles here. See? They're gone. I took a look around. Indeed, there were no other bicycles aside from the ones we'd taken to get here. Couldn't they have parked them somewhere else? Could they have brought them up the stairs? Those girls couldn't do that, Keiichi-kun. Just as she said, I couldn't imagine Rika-chan and Satoko lugging their bikes all the way up there. We hadn't yet knocked on Rika-chan's door, but reality was already sparking some ideas that weren't what you'd call good. Maybe they were just parked under some trees and we hadn't noticed them. I refused to believe that not being able to find their bikes here was proof that they'd disappeared. Let's go. The only way to be sure is to check their house. We all nodded and dashed up the stone steps. We passed through the red arch and came out onto the shrine grounds, which was covered in neat gravel. It was so quiet here, as though the Watanagashi festival had never happened. So, where's the house they live in? Over here. Come with me. Rina took the lead and sprinted off. We went towards the assembly hall behind the shrine, then looped around behind it. In the darkness of the night, we found a small, prefab 2-story shack that looked like a warehouse. The lights are off. Are they sleeping? Let's knock. Rina and Mion neared the shack, which didn't really look like a place people would live. They had such a beautiful shrine, so I'd figured they'd live in an equally beautiful house. It was far from what I had expected. Rika-chan! Satoko-chan! Are you there? Rina shouted up towards the second floor. Her voice was restrained at first, but it steadily grew louder. No answer. In fact, there wasn't any sort of activity in the house at all. They might be sleeping. Let's wake them up. Mion banged on the shutter with both hands, and the loud sounds echoed into our surroundings. They would have to notice this much noise. They would turn on the light in their room, fling open the windows, and yell, "What time do you think it is?" That, however, wasn't happening. There was absolutely no response. Mion stopped slamming her fists on the shutter, and a sudden silence fell over us. The silence aroused terrible thoughts in us. I could feel the blood draining from my face. It's locked. I wonder if we can get in somehow. Rina showed no signs of stopping. It didn't look like she would admit they weren't here until we went inside and saw for ourselves. That refusal to give in gave me strength. The second story window shouldn't be locked. I'll give them a try.
Ki-chan, a ladder. Mion brought over a ladder that was standing against the house. The footing was a little unstable for me to be climbing it, but Mion held the ladder firmly in place for me. I hadn't climbed too many ladders. My inexperience with them exposed, I climbed up one step at a time and tried to open each window on the second floor. Mi-chan, I'm going to go check the main house just to be sure, okay? I'll be right back.
Rina darted away. What? A main house?
It's the Furude family's actual house. After her parents passed away, I think it's been left like that.
Ah, right. Rika-chan's parents. They passed away, huh? At that point, I recalled something else. Wasn't Satoko living here too?
Satoko's also an orphan. Her parents fell from a cliff because of Oyashiro-sama's curse. Then her older brother, Satoshi-kun, he disappeared.
Satoshi. I've heard that name before. I remembered. He was the one who disappeared last year because of the curse.
Ever since then, Satoko and Rika-chan have been living in this shack. Neither of them has any family, but at least they're together. They help each other out.
Rina said main house, didn't she? Wouldn't it be easier to live there? The curtains were drawn, so I couldn't get a good look inside to see, but two young girls living together seemed like a pretty tough life.
I think she tried that at first. She said it was hard, though, because it reminded her of her parents.
I had no idea. I feel really bad for them. They were normally so cheerful at school that I never even realized an atom of this. I can tell that's way too quiet. Way too quiet. We need you guys to enjoy this.
Damn it! No! No, I love that song so much! She's cursed.
Huh?
Suddenly, Mion said something in such a low voice that it sounded like she was really cursing someone, and I didn't let it slide. I turned around on the ladder to face her and asked again. Mion, what did you just say? I said she's cursed. Mion, still holding on to the ladder, brought her head up to look me in the eyes. As soon as our eyes met, an absolute zero jolt of electricity surged through my body. Mion's eyes clouded over, and within them boiled and bubbled a stew of chaos. They whirled around and around like a raging sea, and bubbles floated to the surface. I had at some point been trapped on this ladder, like being cornered on a dead-end street. Mion, why are you making that face? I intended to follow that up with, "You're going too far with this joke," and give her a forced smile. However, on such uneven footing as I was, the only thing that came out of my mouth was a hoarse groan as I desperately struggled to not let nausea overwhelm me. Satoko Hojo, she's been cursed by Oyashiro-sama. Mion answers with a response to something I never asked, as if replying to somebody else's question. The only people who fell from the park observation platform were her parents. Only her parents, who treated her like dirt, died that day. She was the only one to survive. Then she was sent to live with her aunt, who treated her cruelly, and the aunt was killed on the night of Watanagashi by some deviant who beat her to death so violently her brains were everywhere and her head an entirely different shape by the end of it. Then Satoshi-kun, who always protected her, he suddenly disappeared on her birthday. Someone made him disappear, even though he wasn't abusing her. The police judged him to have run away from home, but Satoshi-kun wasn't the kind of person who would do that. He was always earnest. He would never ask for anyone else's help.
He would always drag himself through everything with hard work alone. He worked so hard he nearly ground his bones into dust, all for his one and only little sister. And yet someone made him disappear. She was the only one he lived for, and yet someone made him disappear. Poor Satoshi-kun. He was never rewarded, that Satoshi-kun. How ungrateful that child is. She is cursed. All who get near her suffer the same fate. The curse kills them, or the curse makes them disappear. She cannot have any relief. She cannot have any relief. It's probably Satoko's fault that Rika-chan disappeared too. It has to be. 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 Has to.
Mion was mumbling words over and over that were no longer coherent. Her shoulders were trembling so hard that I could feel it through the ladder. I almost lost my footing, which made me realize just how far away the ground really was.
Calm down, Mion. I don't know what you're talking about.
I wasn't sure if she even heard me. Mion rocked back and forth, and that rocking and trembling was becoming even more violent.
Help me. The ladder, it's falling. Help me. Help!
Just then, I heard the sound of many people running towards us.
Oh, hey! Over here!
I very nearly said help me outright. 4 or 5 adults, led by Rina, ran over here with flashlights.
Keiichi-kun, Mi-chan, sorry I took so long. I borrowed the key. Oh, nice one. Seems all the windows and doors are perfectly sealed. I was getting worried.
When I heard Mion talking like nothing had just happened, I again felt a chill run through me. The person currently holding the ladder in place, it was definitely Mion. It was the real Mion Sonozaki. Then, the person muttering to themselves just a few seconds ago. Who was that? The person who was mumbling about terrible things, like curses. Who was that? I jumped down from the ladder as if running away before Mion turned into that person who wasn't Mion a second time. The adults tried a few different keys on a key ring as they tried to open the big shutter on the first floor.
Rika-chan's house used to be a disaster shelter for the town council, so the key to the shutter is still kept in the mayor's house. It's Rika-chan and Satoko's private residence now, though. Well, this is on Rika-chan's property anyway. Nobody complains about it.
Mion gave me a smile as she said that. I, however, could only return her gaze with an aghast expression. Mion was acting all too normal now, but that only contrasted all the more sharply with her earlier, un-Mion-like creepiness. Bang! Bam! Clatter, 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 bang! The shutter opened for the first time in a very long while. Rina located the light switch and wasted no time going inside. I followed her in.
Rika-chan! Satoko-chan! If you're here, say something!
We climbed a narrow staircase. It had looked like nothing more than a warehouse, but now that I was inside, I could feel how lived in it was. It was a person's home. Somehow, the scent of the two of them filled the place. This was definitely where Rika-chan and Satoko lived. The first floor doubled as a town assembly warehouse, but the second floor was a space entirely for living. Just like a one-bedroom apartment, past the kitchen was a living room taking up about 150 square feet. Dressers, cupboards, and the like were packed into the space, and in the corner there was a huge pile of clothes that appeared to have just been taken in from drying outside. In the center of the living room was a fold-up table, and on it were small containers for things like soy sauce and salad dressing. The sense of a frugal lifestyle drifted from all of it. It was strange that they weren't here in the middle of the night like this. The adults, climbing the stairs one at a time,
began to make a fuss and talk amongst themselves. So? Not here? Yeah, they're not here. This is definitely weird. The village had just been thrown into chaos yesterday because of the mayor's disappearance. Then today, even Rika-chan and Satoko had... Were they out playing somewhere together? That can't be. Their bicycles aren't here, though. Where would they have gone so late at night? Have they just not come back yet? Where did they go? The adults put forth various possibilities, and the house immediately devolved into a state of confusion. Eventually, Mion settled them down. I don't want to believe it, but the mayor, Kimiyoshi, disappeared yesterday. We can't say that this is unrelated. The adults' faces paled at Mion's declaration. Mai and Rina's did as well. Let's see. They could have gone nearby for some tea or something, then accidentally fallen asleep. Whoever invited them might just not be able to wake them up at all, too. Let's eliminate that possibility first. Makino-san, please go around to the houses near the stream. Kitaro-san, go look near Ojaga Lake. Okamura-san, you... Mion promptly gave directions to the villagers. The adults followed them without hesitation, despite her age. We'll remain here and call up anyone we can think of on the phone. Okay, everyone, you have your orders. Got it. The adults all roared and replied and pounded back down the stairs below. Wow, Mi-chan. You're not only chairperson of the school, but Hinamizawa too. No time for jokes. Hey, step aside. This old man is using the phone. Mion grinned proudly, took the receiver, and got started. Rina gave Mion a trusting look, considering her dependable for doing all of this. My feelings, though, were a little more complicated, since her leadership seemed to be affirming the Sonozaki family successor impression that Shion and Oishi-san had given me. Stop right there, Keiichi Maibara. None of that matters right now. The most important thing is to make sure Rika-chan and Satoko are safe. Let's see. Couldn't there be a clue hinting at where they might have gone somewhere in this room? Still, though, I wouldn't know what to look for anyway. If we tore the whole place apart and figured out what was different from before, we might be able to speculate, but there was nothing strange about this room, and there were no clues in sight. In the first place, I had never been here before. There was no way for me to know what was different if I didn't know how the room usually looked. Hey, don't give up, Keiichi Maibara. Stop thinking and start looking. For something. In search of something, I tried pulling down the dresser drawers and opened the windows. I didn't uncover anything meaningful, though. Rina, also unable to stand around doing nothing, was looking around the room like I was. Rina, I don't think you'll find Rika-chan by opening the refrigerator or the cabinet underneath the sink. I just thought they might be hiding. How? As we were searching, it got noisy outside. Villagers were quickly assembling here, having heard the commotion. Of course, a lot of them were probably people Mion had called. I'll go tell everyone what's going on. The police will be here sooner or later, too. We'll need to explain the situation to Oishi. Mion began descending the stairs, and we followed her out to the front of the house. There was already around 10 adults here, and all of them looked uneasy. I suddenly noticed that the old people from the shrine were here as well, and they were praying for Rika-chan's safety, rubbing their prayer beads. This had gotten bad. This wasn't just a problem between friends anymore. Mion-chan, is it true that Rika-chan and Satoko-chan aren't anywhere to be found? The villagers all formed a ring around Mion, swarming her. Mion raised her right hand, as if silently telling them to calm down. First, let's check every house according to the town council's notification division and see if they're visiting anyone. After all, they could be fast asleep at someone's house and totally unaware that we're looking for them. It would definitely be hard for someone to wake up Rika-chan if she had eaten a good, full meal and fallen asleep like a kitten afterwards. Oh, how nice it would be if that were the case. I don't want to think about this, but it's also possible something bad has happened. Beyond's face grew remarkably more grim, and a wave of silence washed over the adults. We should divide up the work, too. We'll go around to the places we went last night while looking for the mayor. We'll go look around the damn construction site as best we can. You guys go search around the school. Right. Let's get a move on. Come on, let's go. All of you were up all night looking for the mayor. I know you're all low on sleep, but please do your best. Got it. With that as their signal, the adults scattered in every direction. I figured I would scatter somewhere as well, so I started walking unsteadily in a direction no one else had gone in. I was getting farther and farther from people. I didn't feel scared or anything, though. If someone were made to disappear, Shion and I should be first. It would have been perfectly normal for me to be scared of the dark. However, I didn't feel that way. Why was that? It was because tonight, someone had already disappeared, so nobody else would disappear tonight. It would take some time before I, exhausted as I was, would feel guilt at the cause of my own selfish sense of relief. Ooh. Okay, putting on the old music with the '07 mod was a good idea. I don't regret it. Suddenly, my vision cleared and a cold wind caressed my body. This was the hill from which you could see the whole village. Looking down from this hill, I could see lights on here and there, and knew that the entire village had awoken from its slumber. First Takano-san and Tomitake-san, then the mayor, and now Rika-chan and Satoko had been sacrificed, and word of it was spreading everywhere. The strength in my knees left me. This could no longer be a joke. We could have found them. Mion would have told me I was a worrywart. Rina would just be glad we did, and they would have smiled at me. My hopes disappeared as if I were awakening from a dream. That was what the view I could see was telling me. Following my knees, my arms both bent forward onto the ground, and I clawed at it with my nails. I couldn't figure out if I was feeling sorrow or frustration. Is this my fault? I couldn't endure the burden of my own sin, and I had just told Rika-chan about it. They had nothing to do with it, but Rika-chan and even Satoko had been sacrificed. It was like a cross that Shion and I would each have to bear the weight of until we ourselves were erased. Well, if I'm going that far, then the problem started long before that. My original sin of breaking taboo and entering the ritual storehouse without asking. I knew I shouldn't have gone in there from the start, yet I lost out to cheap curiosity. I hadn't felt so angry at myself until this very moment. There was a crunching sound. I wasn't even interested in who made the noise, despondent as I was. Keiichi-kun? Keiichi-kun, are you okay? It was Rina. Perhaps my clawing at the ground made it look as though I was having stomach pains. She ran over and rubbed my back to make me feel better. This is all my fault. It's because of me. It's all my fault. Keiichi-kun's fault? You didn't do anything wrong. Please don't blame yourself for this. I could tell Rina was doing her best to choose the right words out of consideration for me. That's why I couldn't sense her intent behind those words. Keiichi-kun, you know why Rika-chan and Satoko-chan disappeared, don't you? Is what she really meant to say. Because it was an emergency, Rina had ignored the reason why I wanted to make sure Rika-chan was safe, but now that we'd actually confirmed her disappearance, it was only natural Rina would start to wonder about why. One sec, I fucking love this song. However, with the situation having gone this far, I couldn't possibly tell her now. I didn't want to admit that Rika-chan and Satoko had disappeared, but I couldn't let Rina disappear either. Keiichi-kun, if you stay out here in the wind, you'll catch a cold. Rina sat down, bringing her eyes level with mine. They told us the children should go back home to sleep. Rina showed me her watch as she said that. It was long past 1 in the morning. Time was passing too quickly. Had I been crawling around here for that long? If we don't sleep soon, we'll have trouble getting up for school tomorrow. Even the adults are really worn out, since they were up searching for the mayor last night, too. They were saying they'd break up a little earlier tonight. I was a little upset that they weren't allotting as much time to this as they had to search for the mayor last night. But that was something I, the cause of everything, had no right to criticize them for. It's all right. The police arrived a little while ago. Look, there's police cars coming into the village right now. Hearing that remark, I looked down at the village to see that there were indeed more cars than one would normally expect at this hour, coming from the darkness on the other side of the mountain. However, none of their emergency lights were on. Of course, their sirens weren't wailing either. That's right. All of the incidents that occurred right after Watanagashi were seen as the product of Oyashiro-sama's curse and would be handled in secrecy. Rika-chan and Satoko too. Their disappearance would end up exactly like the other serial incidents in the past. Surreptitious. Unresolved. Declared a mystery. And disappear from memory. Rika-chan's face, her sweet face like a Western doll's, would fade away. Satoko's smile, her energetic, fanged smile, would fade away. The more I tried to remember them, the less I would be able to. I deserved to be called an idiot dozens of times over, and it wouldn't be enough. I couldn't hold back the tears at my own sheer stupidity. I don't know what you're blaming yourself for, Keiichi-kun, but you should stop. I wasn't about to deny it. I couldn't. Even so, I couldn't affirm it either. I wanted to at least keep Rina out of this. If she found out, she would become involved. Please, Rina, could you just leave me alone? Even if I went home, I wouldn't be able to sleep. If I couldn't get to sleep, then I at least wanted to search for Rika-chan and Satoko until I collapsed. The entire village was looking, and yet they still hadn't been found. I don't think I'd be able to find them if I went looking alone at this point. Still, I had to do it. They disappeared because of me. I couldn't possibly go to sleep while other people are out there searching. I had said that to myself in self-deprecation, but I soon realized that Rina was silently trying to find the meaning in my mumblings. I realized I had misspoke. It's Keiichi-kun's fault? Why do you think that? Why? That can't be. Keiichi-kun, you're not at fault. I was happy that Rina said these things to me, but she only did so because she didn't know the truth. If she knew that everything had been caused by my breaking taboo on the night of Watanagashi, then even Rina would curse my existence. However, I can't even allow for those curses. That would mean confessing my own crimes to Rina.
If I spilled even one word of having snuck into the ritual storehouse on the night of Watanagashi, then even Rina could disappear tomorrow night. The gentle, spirited, always joking, always howling, but at a time like this, the most dependable person in the world, Rina might disappear. I don't want that. Anything but that. This time, I need to bear my own cross. Alone.
Keiichi-kun, I know that you always have your friends in your heart. I can really understand feeling like you want to kick yourself. Rina knows, though, that it's not Keiichi-kun's fault. You didn't do anything wrong, Keiichi-kun, and I know that.
You know that? The shivering in my veins rushed up my back and replaced the sorrow in my heart with fear. I didn't tell her anything, did I? Maybe I accidentally said something that caused Rina to figure it out? This is bad. Now, Rina will disappear. Rina will disappear. Rina will disappear! Then Rina, the same way I always did, grabbed my head and began to pet it roughly.
Keiichi-kun, are you thinking that Rina might disappear now too? Because of Oyashiro-sama's curse?
She puts more force into the hand rubbing my head.
You don't need to worry about that. Rina isn't going anywhere. I promise.
Why, how can you say that with such confidence? I mean, someone's been sacrificed every night so far. There was no proof that it wouldn't happen again tomorrow night. There was even less proof, after all, that the sacrifice wouldn't be Rina. I don't care who you are. Just, please, if you're going to erase someone, erase me first. Please, stop cruelly getting rid of people we're close to, like the mayor for Shion, and Rika-chan and Satoko for me. Shion's hysterical shouting came back to my mind. They must be planning to kill us last of all. They're not killing the first people who come to mind. They start by killing those we're close to. And then after they've caused us so much pain, they'll kill us. That must be what they're doing. Rina, please, don't disappear. Please don't. As long as I'm still here. I could no longer conceal the sobs welling up within me.
Come on, Keiichi-kun. Crying doesn't suit you. Let's go back to the others. The housewives are cooking some miso soup for us. It'll warm you up and calm you down.
Rina prompted me to stand. I didn't have the energy to oppose her, so I stood as she urged me to. We returned to the shrine grounds to find several gas stoves there with miso soup in big pots. The many villagers there sipped at the soup they were given in dead, stony silence. Their expressions were absolutely exhausted. Everyone had just been running around the village until a little while ago. From the dreary looks on their faces, though, I assumed they hadn't come up with anything yet.
Ki-chan, where did you go? I was worried you'd disappeared too.
Sorry. Mion held out some miso soup for me, and I refused the offer. I didn't have much of an appetite.
Mi-chan, how is it? Did you find any clues?
Mion took a sip of her soup, her expression frank.
None at all. School ended and they went home. Then the two of them went somewhere on their bicycles. Moreover, nobody ever saw them riding their bikes, so...
When it gets dark out at Hinamizawa, people quickly vanish from the streets. Aside from adults hurrying back home from town in cars or on bicycles, it was normal to see absolutely nobody walking around outside. It wasn't at all strange that nobody had seen Rika-chan and Satoko riding their bikes.
It was the same last night with the mayor. There's no hope.
Mion's apathetic tone
pricked my nerves, but that anger quickly subsided. She had been doing all sorts of things to try and find Rika-chan until just a second ago. If I asked her, she'd probably say she was up all night last night too, looking for the mayor, wouldn't she? She must have been far more fatigued than I was. Besides, what about me? I had spent the time hunched over in indecision, all alone. I had no right to say anything about Mion. Ki-chan, I know it's hard, but let's turn in for the night. We just decided we should break up the search for now. Drink this and let's call it quits. Is this the end? Oh, no, of course not. Once it's bright out again, we'll do a thorough search with the police's help. They could have gone to Okinomiya, too. People are even saying we should go through all of Shishiboni City, investigating whether there are any witnesses, for both the girls and the mayor. Anyway, what happened, Ki-chan? Where did you go off to? You vanished all of a sudden. I was really worried. Suddenly, I was on the receiving end, but I didn't have the willpower to respond. Sorry. I'll be more careful. Nothing happened? There wasn't anyone suspicious spying on or stalking you? Nothing like that? Mion demanded with a serious expression. I was being criticized for how inconsiderate I had been. Despite being in so much pain, I was frustrated that I was being criticized, but it was my sin. My sin, and I must bear it alone. Nothing. I'll be careful either way. Sorry. Mion, now aware that nothing had happened, heaved a big sigh with her shoulders, looking relieved.
Oh, my. I knew I smelled something good coming from over here. I'd be much obliged if you'd allow me to have some.
We heard the repulsive voice of a fat man. It was Oishi-san, trailed by a handful of police officers. He was acting energetically, in a way unfitting given the situation. There's not much left, but you can have some if you want. Mion didn't like Oishi-san very much. Her cold attitude, though, didn't seem to bother Oishi-san in the slightest. It was like splashing water in a frog's face.
Well now, miso soup leftovers have a bit too much salt for my taste. Confound it. Would you all like any?
He recommended it to his subordinates, but everyone gave dry smiles and refused. So, have the police gotten hold of any clues? Rina's smile was warm enough to replace the miso soup.
Don't you worry, little missy. Everything's fine. We're searching for them real good.
He didn't say a word about having found any clues. In other words, there had been no progress. That sure was an annoying way of beating around the bush.
In any case, it really has gotten late. All you youngsters should get on home and get some sleep. It'll be bad for your health otherwise.
Yeah. Ki-chan, Rina, get some rest. These guys get our tax money. They'll handle it from here for us.
We're taxpayers too, you know. I feel like a soba noodle chef eating my own soba.
I really wasn't in the mood for laughter. In fact, Oishi-san was the only one laughing like an idiot. Okay, seriously, please do your best. Let's go home, Keiichi-kun. It'll be harder to wake up tomorrow if we don't.
Yes, that's right. I can always bring you home if you need. Kuma-chan, why don't you bring the car around?
No, thanks. We came on our bicycles, so...
No need to worry. We came in a truck. We'll just throw the bikes in the back.
We may have gotten pretty sleepy, but we just needed to ride home at this point. I didn't want to bother the police like that. Rina, however, nodded. Okay, if you insist, we'd appreciate it. It's probably safer than if we went back alone. When I thought about it carefully, I realized that Rina's idea was extremely rational.
Now that it's decided, let's get a move on, shall we?
Okay, bye. Good night, Rina, Ki-chan. Yeah, Mi-chan, you go to bed soon too, okay? Good night. I waved my hand as well, saying goodbye. Rika-chan and Satoko still hadn't been found. My unease, however, was steadily being pushed away by sleepiness. Rina showed the police where our bicycles were so that Oishi-san could haul them up into their truck. He prompted us to get into the back seat. I could hear the springs squeaking as I sat down onto a seat that would normally hurt my rear end, but at this point it was very soft and was more than comfortable enough for me to fall asleep on.
Ladies first. We'll start with the little Mrs. house. Where do you live?
Thank you. My house is, well... Oh no, this ain't gonna go well. Rina's voice slowly grew distant. I felt myself being sucked into the void of sleep.
Hello? My bar-san? Are you asleep back there?
When I came to, it was quiet. The car was parked. Oishi-san was giving me light slaps to the cheek. It didn't feel good at all, so I woke up immediately. I'm sorry. I just fell asleep. Something was being held right under my nose. A clump of metal? It was a can of coffee.
It's lukewarm by now, but cafe au lait is good even at room temperature.
Oh, thanks. I mechanically took the can and opened the pull top. The feeling of the warm, sweet liquid going down my throat awakened my sleepy mind. When my drowsiness receded, I started wanting to know why the car was stopped and why I was offered coffee. 'Cause he's gonna fucking question you, you dumb fucking child. Okay. Okay, the sip breaks will stop now, I promise. Oh. The part that doesn't end. Oishi-san, who had been in the driver's seat, had, at some point, moved to the back. Suddenly, I had a very bad feeling about this. It reminded me of the questioning yesterday at the library. It was already too late by the time I realized I'd made a mistake. Today of all days, it didn't look like I would be getting away. I had a feeling that until Oishi-san heard what he wanted to, he wouldn't be letting me go.
Please, don't get all formal on me. I'm not going to eat you or anything, my bar-san.
Oishi-san gulped down the last of his coffee, then stretched wide, showing me how relaxed he was. That, however, only served to heighten my nervousness. Well, what do you need from me?
Need? Oh, no, nothing really.
You're going to evade the question at this point? What a deeply unreadable man.
Well, I don't need you for anything. I just thought that you might need something from me, my bar-san.
I don't need anything.
Oh, I see. Really? Are you sure there's nothing?
There was only one side door in the back seat of this truck. In other words, my only exit was blocked off by Oishi-san. I couldn't get away. I could only limply hang my head and maintain my silence. Oishi-san, despite my reticence, relaxed and began smoking a cigarette. The cries of the insects outside seemed to be growing longer and longer to an amount of time that almost seemed infinite.
Here I was assuming that you had wanted to talk to me about.
Here I was
sure that you had something you wanted to talk to me about.
There we go. That's That's the line. Who's talking to me? Uishi-san exhaled a puff of smoke. The windows were open, but the tobacco smoke still accumulated inside the vehicle. How much did Uishi-san know? What did he know, and what did he want to hear from me? If finding out the truth made you disappear, then if I told him, would Uishi-san disappear too? I had a feeling that I didn't need to worry about that in his case.
I wonder how all this ended up happening.
Uishi-san addressed me in a low tone, as if he was talking to himself. How all this ended up happening? How the hell should I know? That was what I wanted to know.
You know Jiro Tomitake-san and Mio Takano-san, right? I know you do, because I personally witnessed you with them during the festival, along with Shion Sonozaki-san. Do you know how Tomitake-san and Takano-san are doing now? They've actually, well, passed away. They met very untimely deaths.
Uishi-san probably played that card in order to surprise me. However, I already knew, and didn't display the extreme reaction he expected.
What's this? Did you already know?
Unfortunately, for this question in particular, remaining silent was equivalent to saying yes.
Oh, so then did you also know? The reason Tomitake-san and Takano-san were cursed like that. People are saying that apparently they went into some forbidden building.
The storehouse for ritual implements. That forbidden shed, sealing away Hinamizawa's blood-stained past. Where the mistake that started it all happened.
Do you know about the rumors that say the mayor and Rika Furude-san were cursed because of that too?
That would mean it was mine and Shion's fault. He was right. As soon as we revealed what we did.
What did they call it? A ritual storehouse? They're saying it was bad luck. The lock to it had been replaced by a simpler one, which made it easier for thieves to get inside.
What? This was news to me.
Until last year, it apparently had these big bars and a huge padlock on it. I mean, you know, ever since the priest and his wife passed away, Rika Furude-san has been managing the place, right? Apparently, she talked to the mayor, saying she wanted them replaced with a lighter, more simple padlock because the bars were too heavy for her.
I didn't know anything about those big bars he was talking about, but the lock had certainly been a simple one. It was a pretty cheap one, too, and it didn't really fit my impression of what a lock for a place you'd store something as important as ritual implements would look like.
Rika-san is a small girl, after all. The bars were heavy with rust, and they must have caused her a lot of trouble. So, the mayor hired a craftsman and replaced the lock with a simple padlock, so she could open it with a key.
So, how does that mean it was bad luck?
Here's what I'm saying. Thieves couldn't get in with the old tight lock. The mayor and Rika-san replaced it with a cheap lock and key on their own, so thieves broke into it. Apparently, that's how it's going down.
That explanation's a bit...
Letting that slide, certain members of the village delivered punishment upon the thieves who stole into the ritual storehouse, as well as the mayor and Rika-san who changed the lock. At least, those are the whispers that seem to be going around, Maibara-san. What do you think?
What do I think? I don't really know what you mean by certain members of the village.
Are you familiar with the three families? Representatives from each of them gave short addresses at the Watanagashi Festival's opening ceremony.
I didn't see them. I came partway through the festival, so I don't really...
The three families are the three oldest families in Hinamizawa. To give actual names, the Kimiyoshi family, the Sonozaki family, and the Furude family. They each have quite the lineage, it seems. Long ago, it said that everything in the village was decided by a council of the three families. The Kimiyoshi family, Old Man Kimiyoshi, meaning the mayor's family.
No, that's supposed to be me. The Sonozaki family was Mion's. So the Furude family was Rika-chan's family then?
After the war, the Sonozaki family quickly expanded their influence. Practically speaking, after leading the fight against the construction during the dam conflict, they jumped to the top of the hierarchy in Hinamizawa. You see, though, in accordance with the old ways, they still decide important village matters only after consulting with the three families. That's why the leaders of the three families each have their own address at the start of Watanagashi. In other words, the mayor, the old lady currently in charge of the Sonozaki family, and the last remaining member of the Furude family, Rika-san.
I heard that the Sonozaki family was pretty high up there. So Rika-chan's family was just as old?
Well, as you're aware, she has no relatives at all. In reality, the Furude family holds pretty much no influence. However, it seems like people gravitate towards Rika-san on a personal level, and I hear that many of the village's elderly have blind faith in her.
It was certainly true that Rika-chan had an odd sort of charisma amongst the elderly. So, what are you telling me about all this three families stuff for? Uishi-san paused for emphasis, lighting another cigarette.
I've explained it a lot, but I suppose it's still not enough.
I'm asking because I don't understand. Uishi gave me a dry, meaningful grin and blew out another big puff of smoke.
Members of the three families are disappearing, one after the other. That's what I'm talking about. I've read that it's based on some kind of old traditions inherent in Hinamizawa, but I don't know much beyond that.
I don't know anything about it either.
That's why I'm asking. The leaders of the Kimiyoshi and Furude families have disappeared, so maybe the leader of the Sonozaki family will disappear next. Well, that's just a random idea bouncing around in my head at the moment. Just kidding, really.
The leader of the Sonozaki family? Who is it?
The current leader is the old lady at their main house, but it wouldn't be incorrect to say that practically all the rights of the leadership have been transferred to her granddaughter, Mion-san.
The visage of Mion giving prompt directions to the adults while searching for Rika-chan sprung to mind. Mion? She's gonna disappear? I hadn't even thought of that possibility. All my hair stood on end. That's insane.
Nobody wants that, right?
Of course not. We can't allow that. Clamp. Uishi-san grabbed my shoulders with both hands.
Then help us, my bar-san. If there's anything you've noticed about Mion Sonozaki lately, please tell me.
I was going along with him? By the time I'd realized it, it was too late. Uishi-san brought his face in closer, almost close enough to ram into me, waiting for my next words. This pressure, I can't tear my eyes away from his. That moment, I heard a beeping sound. It was from the driver's seat. He ignored it at first, but then it started to bother him, so he finally let go of me and leaned into the driver's seat.
Hello? Yep, loud and clear.
I was saved. Of course, it's not like I could use this opening to escape.
I see. Yes, all right. Let's head back then. Yes. Okay.
Apparently, he was being recalled. Now that I knew I'd be freed, the tension in my body dissipated all at once.
It looks like I need to get going. We were just getting to the good part, too. That's too bad.
Uishi-san flung open the door, exited, and walked around to the front driver's seat. He left the door open. Did that mean I could leave?
You really care about your friends, my Bara-san. An admirable trait for a kid to have in this day and age. I totally understand that it feels like you'd be betraying them if you told the police anything. My Bara-san, it's the middle of the night, so get a good night's sleep and then think about it. Just a little bit of courage from you might end up being what saves many of your friends in the end.
Did he want to say that the sacrifices wouldn't stop with Rika-chan and Satoko?
You know this already, but every night since Watanagashi, something has happened. In the past, the curse only occurred once per year, but this time it's been going on for days. What a prosperous year this has been.
I don't think you can call that prosperous.
The night before last night, and now today. There's no proof that something won't happen tomorrow night as well. It's our job to prevent such things before they happen, but for that, we need your cooperation, my Bara-san.
I looked out the open door to see none other than my own house right in front of me. It creeped me out that he knew my name and address, but I was too sleepy right now. I was too sleepy to care.
Well, you're probably tired. It's already 3 a.m. Please get yourself a good rest.
Yes, sir. I'll be going now. When I was about to get out of the truck, as if to deliver a parting blow, Uishi-san said in a raised voice,
I'll be coming by every day until you feel like talking, all right? I don't believe forcing you to confess in an interrogation room is really in fashion these days.
I couldn't say anything in response, but me slamming the door shut probably served the same purpose. After lightly beeping the horn, Uishi-san's truck drove off. I went to the front door without waving goodbye. The door was locked, but the chain wasn't up. I unlocked the door and entered. Then walked over to the staircase. That was where I lost consciousness. Is that it? Oh, yeah. Oh. Actually making it happen on a black screen. Hype as fuck. Oh my god, that's so many tips. Why is there so many tips? Why? The Sonozaki family. The one to drastically expand its influence after the war was the Sonozaki family. The leader at the time was Oryu Sonozaki, who still has that seat today. Oryu Sonozaki has grown old, and today you can only catch a glimpse of who she was at the time. From what I've been told, however, she was a leader extolled as the best in history. Having become so old, aside from going out a few times a week for lessons, she spends her time at home in solitude, and seems to leave most of the ceremonial affairs to her heir, Mion. There are different views on why the successor was not her daughter, but her granddaughter Mion, but it's rumored that it has to do with disownment of her daughter and son-in-law. That uninhibited granddaughter, Mion Sonozaki, still shows no sign of the dignity required of the next leader. However, she does have Sonozaki blood in her veins, and is permitted the name of Demon. She still doubtlessly requires caution, and is probably hiding her fangs and claws as skillfully as the leaders of the past did. Oh, that was a nice short one. All right, cool. Yes, the postal worker hasn't seen anything either. The Sonozaki main house has their seal hanging from their mailbox so that anyone can stamp their mail or parcels with it and drop it in.
That's rather careless of them. So when was she last seen?
She was last seen at the Watanagashi opening ceremony greetings.
She apparently returned home right after that. Well, she is pretty old. From what I've heard, she goes out a few times a week to take lessons, right? Have you found anything out about that?
Every Monday she goes to the assembly hall to practice the Taishu Goto, but she didn't go this week.
Any calls to say she wasn't going to be there? Has anyone confirmed it?
No, nobody. She apparently takes days off once in a while, though, so no one thought it was strange.
Tomorrow, why don't we pretend we're the town hall and call around 10 o'clock? Please figure out whether she's at home.
10 o'clock? Got it.
Ever since it started to seem more and more like ancient Hinamizawa traditions had something to do with all this, he'd been keeping a careful eye on the three families. At this point, the leader of the Kimiyoshi family and the leader of the Furude family had disappeared. There was only one leader left. Oryu Sonozaki, the leader of the Sonozaki family. She was apparently a pretty old woman. Her dignity hasn't waned, but she still only appeared before people rarely, so it was difficult to confirm where she was at any given time. She, the last leader, hadn't been seen since the day of Watanagashi. Was she still alive and well within the Sonozaki main house? Or had she... According to Mion Sonozaki, she had fallen ill and was sleeping it off. I wonder if she's really sleeping. I'd like to take a look at her face and her pulse. You can say that again. The two of them breathed out a big puff of cigarette smoke. Uishi-san, about the search warrants for the Sonozaki main house and the Furude shrine, do you think we'll get them? Uishi didn't respond, exhaled another cloud of tobacco smoke, his surroundings now as foggy as his mind.
Oh man, things are heating up. Who knows what's going to happen? But a giant payoff is coming. The Hidden Demon. The inhabitants of Hinamizawa believe that the blood of demons flows in their blood. As such, the character for demon is treated as very sacred. For example, usage of the character in names is apparently a right reserved for only the leaders of the Kimiyoshi and Sonozaki families. Case in point, we can see it in the current Sonozaki family leader's name. Oryu is written with the character that. This, and only this, is proof that she is a legitimate leader of the Sonozaki family. In the same way, Mion Sonozaki, its successor, contains this in her name, with me being written as this. It also goes for Oryu's daughter and Mion's mother, Akane, who did not succeed her. It's known that before the disowning, Akane's name was actually written as this, though it was changed afterwards to this, still read as Akane. Incidentally, it's thought that the first character, the Mayor Kiichiro's name, this, originally meant demon, which can also be read as Ki. It should be said that names using the character this aren't limited only to successors of the Sonozaki family. You can even find it in the last names of the three families. For example, the characters for Kimiyoshi are likely a split-up version of If you read it in reverse and top to bottom as it clearly resembles the character As for the Furude family, who have been in the Shinto priesthood for generations, the word for fortune teller can be written without interval characters as I think that with the addition of a demon's horn, the tick on top of the character the became the that is used in their name now. In the case of the Sonozaki family, where Sonozaki is written I can't find any reference to the character Perhaps because it's already ingrained into their first names. They were the clan responsible for running the Watanagashi ceremony, so I think that instead, they included the contents of that ceremony into their last name. The Zaki in Sonozaki is a conjugation of the word for slice, and the Sono, written as probably contains the hidden meaning of human body, as it is a complicated mess, organs, enclosed by 4 sides. I think, in other words, that Sonozaki comes from those who slice open the gut. Oh! Well, ain't that a little graphic? So many tips.
I'm back. How did it go? Did you find any clues? The officers shook their heads in disappointment. Exhaustion was plainly showing on everyone's faces. That was only natural. None of them had gotten a wink of sleep since the day of Watanagashi. Chief, let the youngest of us take a nap and then switch them out. We've got a long stretch ahead of us, after all. Let's not push ourselves too hard. Rest up so we can take it easy as we go.
I've been telling them to sleep in shifts. Nobody actually seems willing to sleep, though. Could you tell them yourself, Oishi-san?
Oh my, you don't need to force yourselves. Komiyama-kun, please let everyone sleep in shifts, starting with the youngest.
Komiyama-san, please do that.
After the chief told him as well, Komiyama-san left his seat. So, Chief, still no good on our request?
It's just a rumor among the villagers in the first place, you know. It's going to be difficult without more concrete evidence.
Even when the evidence might be tucked away in there.
We need evidence that evidence is tucked away in there.
Chief, don't start speaking in riddles to me now. We have witnesses that say 4 people, including the 2 who died, went into the forbidden ritual storehouse without permission. This is all reliable information.
You might call it information, but they're really only rumors. They're not concrete evidence.
Well, it's true that we don't have any pictures of the 4 of them sneaking in with cloth tied around their heads. Anyway, those 4 saw something inside the storehouse. Something important enough that they'd be erased.
Important enough that they'd be erased? What would that be exactly?
That's why I'm asking for a warrant to go looking for it in the first place. Anything pointing out the Sonozaki family's connection to violent organizations would be a major contender, like a pile of Takarevs or a secret poppy production facility. The secret Sonozaki family fortune would also be very difficult to discard.
Look, Oishi-san, I know how you feel. However, that storehouse is a sacred building belonging to the Furude Shrine, and we need to have proper consideration for the locals when dealing with it.
I heard that there was an hour-long call made from Congressman Sonozaki to the big man. Chief, could he have nailed you back down?
Anyway, as long as we don't have suitable evidence, we won't get a search warrant for the storehouse. That goes for the Sonozaki main house, too. Especially considering that that's the jurisdiction of both Section 4 and the Prefectural Police's Crime Prevention Division. We need careful preparations first.
If you say you need preparations, then why don't you just let me talk with them directly? Shige-chan is the head of Section 4, right? For crime prevention, it's Sankai-san. They seem like they'd be quicker to talk if I sat them down at a mahjong table.
Chief, you have a visitor. Yikes! Pushing the employee who guided him in right out of the way was an old man who looked like a Yakuza member, given his crested kimono and hakama. Did he not get enough of this over the phone?
I am Congressman Sonozaki. I demand to know who's responsible for this. This instant. Hello. I am the division chief, Takasuki. I don't need your name. I could have you demoted on a whim. You wouldn't even be enough. Bring out the one called Uishi or whatever. He deserves punishment for requesting a search warrant on the sacred Furude shrine. I sincerely apologize. Uishi is currently out on investigation, and he's being difficult to contact. I'll take his place and hear you out. So please, have a seat. The chief's eyes were telling me to get out of there. Perhaps I'd gratefully accept this favor. Maybe I'll go lay down in the nap room. Listen here. The Furude Shrine spent 2,600 years under the imperial calendar and 2,500 more beyond that. It is sacred, a sanctuary that must never be defiled. The 800,000 gods, Oyashiro-sama, and the spirits of our ancestors are enshrined there. The holy shrine protects Hinamizawa from when the sun comes up to when it sets, and from when the moon rises to when it falls. Who was the idiot who wanted to set foot in there? Besides, the right to religion is the most revered right of the people of this country in this constitution. You dare to be so bold as to sully that using your own investigation's negligence as pretext? I will not allow it. Are you listening, you lying scum? I'm angry now, so you're not getting off the hook that easily. Mr. Sonozaki seems very angry. He seems very, very upset. Okay. But that is going to be it for this part. If you're watching on YouTube. Sorry, I left that part out. If you're watching on YouTube, that is going to be the end of this video. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to the channel and smashing that bell button so that you know immediately whenever I upload a new video, which is daily currently, and I hope to keep that going for a fair while. Also, please consider liking the video. Every single like helps, and it just gives me interaction that tells YouTube to show my video to more people. It's really important, so please do it. Also, leave a comment down below. Where do you think Rika-chan and Satoko went? Do you think the Sonozaki family is in danger? Leave your guesses and illuminations down below. Ruminations. Ruminations is the word I wanted, not illuminations. Illumination is light. Leave your ruminations down below in the comments. Also, you'll find my followables down in the doobly-doo there. In the description, as you plebeians call it. You'll find my Twitch. I stream sometimes at 7:30 p.m. Pacific time. I don't know when you'll be seeing this particular video, so I don't know what my schedule is gonna be at this time. But like, you can go there and you can check, and maybe you'll get lucky. I don't know. Is there? Go follow me on Twitch. I'm a lot more fun on Twitch, and then you can interact with me in real time. It's a magical world we live in. You'll also find my Twitter. I'm bad at Twitter. I don't really use Twitter, and I'm trying to learn how to use Twitter, and the more followers I get, the more interaction my tweets will get, and the more inspired I will be to get better at using Twitter. So go follow me on Twitter and whatnot. But I think that is all of the shilling I have to do for this video. So one more time, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all tomorrow. But until then, I will catch you all next time. Ciao for now.